If you're an instructional designer or someone who's transitioning into the field of instructional design, you need to know about branching scenarios. Branching scenarios are like a choose-your-own-adventure game that can be used for training purposes. In a branching scenario, the learner is plunged into a real-life situation similar to the one that they might face at work. They have to make decisions to move the story forward, and the decisions they make impact how the story turns out. Most of all, branching scenarios can help people change their behavior on the job. That's because they get the chance to practice and make mistakes in a safe environment. And we all know that one of the best ways to learn is to learn from your mistakes. When you discover how to create effective branching scenarios, it can really accelerate your career. This skill helps you stand out from the crowd because you're no longer creating traditional e-learning, which is often a long information dump followed by a quiz. Today, I'll share 7 tips that will help you become a more effective branching scenario creator. And be sure to watch through to the end when I'll share a bonus tip that will help you jumpstart your career and save you hours of time. If we're just meeting, my name is Kimberly Goh. I'm a freelance interactive video designer and an e-learning expert who specializes in creating branching scenarios for corporate clients. Let's dive right into those 7 tips. Tip number 1, use action mapping to define decisions. Action mapping is a strategy developed by master instructional designer Kathy Moore. This strategy helps you get to the heart of the business problem so you can create training solutions that get real results. With action mapping, you focus on what people need to do instead of what they need to know. I've found that holding an action mapping session with stakeholders is one of the best ways to come up with meaningful decision points in a branching scenario. To show you how this works, I'm going to give you a sneak peek into one of the interactive videos featured in my new course, How to Create Powerful Branching Scenarios. Originally, I developed this video with beyond animated characters, but here I've recreated a short excerpt using designer realistic characters from eLearning art. First, we'll play through the interactive video and try out each decision to see what happens next. Then, I'll use this example to illustrate points in the rest of the 7 tips. Many thanks to instructional design expert Arun Pradhan for allowing me to create a scenario inspired by his work in design for performance. Jennifer is an instructional designer at a large corporation. One day, Dave, the sales manager, drops by Jennifer's office and asks her to create a spin sales training course for his team. When Jennifer says they need to schedule a kickoff meeting, Dave reluctantly agrees.
Have you read the PowerPoint I sent you? Like I said, it has everything you need. Let's use this time to talk about how you can add gamification to the course. My team is pretty competitive, so I think it will add a lot.
Jennifer explains that it's too early to jump into gamification options and begins taking Dave through the action mapping process. However, she notices that Dave doesn't seem to be listening, and he keeps interrupting her to talk about gamification. The meeting drags on for an hour, but it doesn't feel like they accomplish very much. Jennifer asks Dave to clarify what he means by gamification. Dave eagerly begins talking about some cool gamification apps he found online. He says that digital badges and leaderboards would be very motivating for his team. Unfortunately, by the time he finishes talking, there isn't much time left to discuss action mapping.
Thanks for the PowerPoint, Dave. You've obviously been busy. That's a really useful insight about your team being competitive. Gamification can be really effective, and we've had some interesting experiences with it, which we can explore with you when we get into the details of the solution. And for the next hour, we found we can make the most use of your time by working through a simple process. Are you ready to start?
In that example, Dave was basically requesting a traditional e-learning course, but wanted to jazz it up with gamification. Ultimately, Jennifer was able to redirect the conversation so they could stay focused on the business problem at hand. An action mapping session will help you determine which decisions the learner needs to make as they go through the story. If you'd like to learn more about action mapping, I'll include some resources in the description below this video. Tip number 2, keep decision screens simple and consistent. Decision screens are a key part of branching scenarios. This is where you present the learner with 2 or 3 choices so they can pause and decide what to do. Here's the decision screen we encountered in the demo. Notice the simplicity of the screen layout. I included the character who's making the decision, a short prompt that says "What now?" and 3 choice buttons. The text on each button was very brief, the choices were all realistic, and it wasn't immediately obvious which choice was the correct answer. By keeping the decision screen simple, you reduce the learner's cognitive load. Since the user interface doesn't have a lot of distracting elements, the learner can focus on the choice they have to make. It also helps to use the same format at every decision point in your project so it has a consistent look and feel. Tip 3. Let the branching structure be your guide. One of the secrets to creating effective branching scenarios is to use a branching structure to guide your design and development. It's possible to build a branching scenario without following a branching structure, but I wouldn't advise it. Imagine what would happen if a construction company tried to build a skyscraper without following an architectural diagram. The resulting skyscraper would probably be unwieldy, unsafe, and very difficult to maintain. There are many types of branching structures you can follow, ranging from simple to extremely complex. When I created this demo, I followed a branching structure called a simple mastery loop. First, you saw an introduction and Dave's dialogue at the start of the kickoff meeting. Then you encountered decision 1, where you were presented with 3 choices. If you made a suboptimal decision, you saw a consequence play out, and then you got to try the decision again. Once you made the best choice, the story would continue. Using a branching structure as a guide can save you a lot of time. You don't have to keep second-guessing yourself because you can always refer back to the branching structure to see what you should do next. To help you get started, I'll include a link to a free branching scenario swipe file in the description below this video. This swipe file contains 3 popular branching structures that you can use with your own projects. It also contains working examples of each type, plus guidelines to help you decide which structure is the best fit for your project. But don't stop watching this video yet because we still have 4 more tips to go and it's pretty powerful stuff. I don't want you to miss any of them. At the end of this video, I'll tell you more about the swipe file plus how to access additional resources to help you on your branching scenario journey. Tip number 4. Use changing facial expressions and audio to keep learner engagement high. One of the biggest problems instructional designers face these days is keeping learners engaged. Everyone is so used to watching fast-paced, entertaining, high-quality videos on streaming services that it can be hard for training programs to compete. The truth is that some learners are so used to fast-paced animation and video that static screens can feel a bit boring. With branching scenarios, you have a number of ways to increase learner engagement. Storytelling techniques, meaningful decisions, and challenging consequences all can be very helpful. But there's one other way to engage the learner, and that's by adding changing facial expressions, movement, and sound. If you're using animation software like Vyond, you can easily create characters with built-in movement, facial expressions, and lip sync effects. But Vyond can be a bit expensive, and the cartoony look might not be a good fit for your project. The good news is you can still achieve an animated effect with still images as long as you choose the right kinds of graphic characters. To do this, you'll need graphic characters with a variety of facial expressions and poses. The characters need to be drawn consistently so the changes in their facial expressions will look smooth. Here's a power tip on how I achieved this animated effect using designer realistic characters from eLearning Art. As you can see, there are many types of photo and character styles available, but my personal favorite is an illustrated character style called Designer Realistic. To quickly access the Designer Realistic characters, I first log into eLearning Art and click on the Filter Collection function. I'm going to search specifically for illustrated characters instead of photographic. Then I can specify the kind of clothing that I want my character to be wearing. In this case, I'll choose business casual and casual clothing, although I could also choose lab coats, scrubs, or industrial workwear. I scroll through the characters until I find one that will be a good fit for my scenario. Here's the character I want. When I click View More, I can see she has a wide variety of facial expressions, poses, and props. As you can see, these characters have been drawn very consistently, which is important when you're trying to achieve an animated effect. You can also filter the search so the character will be standing at an angle. In this case, I'm going to change her angle from facing the camera to looking to one side. You can download the picture in both PNG and SVG format. Most of the time, the PNG file works just fine. The character comes with a transparent background so it can be placed into any scenario setting and resized to fit their surroundings. This is the quickest way to add characters to your branching scenario, and by stringing pictures of the same character together in different poses, you can make it look like they're moving on the screen. If you want to customize the graphic, download the SVG file instead. Then you can import it into PowerPoint, convert the image into a shape, and edit it to change the character's look or even the way that they're posed. Using audio narration can also add another dimension to your branching scenarios. Watch this short clip from the demo without audio and see how it makes you feel. Now watch that same clip with professional voiceover added.
Thanks for the PowerPoint, Dave. You've obviously been busy. That's a really useful insight about your team being competitive.
The difference is pretty dramatic, so it might be worthwhile to invest in audio narration if you want to bring your characters to life. We've got a few more tips coming up, but if you're getting value from this video, it would mean the world to me if you'd hit the like button. That way YouTube will share these tips with even more people. Okay, let's move on to tip number 5. Beware of creating spaghetti code. In programming, when a developer is undisciplined with their branching statements, the unfortunate result is sometimes called spaghetti code. There are go-to statements all over the place, and it can be very hard to follow the logic or fix problems later. When creating branching scenarios, it's surprisingly easy to fall into this trap. For example, you might think to yourself, hey, the poor consequence for decision 2 is the same as decision 1. I'll just jump to that consequence again so I don't have to recreate those slides. Or your subject matter expert might say, if they make a mediocre choice, I think they should have to face decision 2 right away. Can't you just jump to that decision here? Technically, you can jump around like this by using a lot of branching statements and maybe adding variables to keep track of things along the way. But it can get pretty messy. And before you know it, your branching structure will have devolved into a hot mess of spaghetti code. This kind of logic can be very difficult to follow, and it can also make your scenario hard to maintain in the future. So as much as possible, try to be disciplined as you create your branching scenario and avoid the spaghetti code trap. Your future self will thank you. Tip number 6, limit each decision point to a maximum of 3 options. Do you know what happens when you offer people too many choices? Take a look at this exam sheet and check your gut reaction. If you got an uneasy feeling when you looked at that sheet, you're probably not alone. It looked like there were a lot of choices to make, and too many choices can cause cognitive overload. It's not necessary to offer a huge number of choices when creating a branching scenario. In fact, research has shown that it's optimal to offer 3 choices for multiple choice questions. If we apply that finding to branching scenarios, that means it's best to present a maximum of 3 options for each decision. So in general, I recommend limiting the number of buttons on your decision screen to 3, as we saw in our demo. One button could be the best choice, while the others could be poor or mediocre choices. This will streamline your workflow and save you a lot of development time later. In some situations, you might even want to limit it to 2 choices, a best choice and a poor choice. Of course, you can always add more choices if you want. Just be aware that adding too many choices can cause cognitive overload for the learner, and it will increase the amount of time that it takes for you to create your branching scenario. Tip number 7, build up your branching scenario skills. Like any valuable skill, branching scenario creation takes time, dedication, and lots of practice. But here are a few shortcuts to help you get started more quickly. Number 1, download the free branching scenario swipe file I mentioned earlier in this video. It has 3 of my favorite branching structures that you can use with your own projects. Plus, you'll get working examples of each type and guidelines to help you choose the best structure to use. Number 2, use the Branching Scenario Quick Start Kit to get started with branching scenarios in just 25 minutes. This Quick Start Kit contains 3 short video lessons packed with strategies, 6 branching structures, and a development tool resource page. The Quick Start Kit was specifically designed for anyone who wants to learn about branching scenarios but doesn't have a lot of time. Number 3, sign up for my new course, How to Create Powerful Branching Scenarios. This course is for those of you who want to accelerate your career in the increasingly crowded field of instructional design. You'll learn a variety of skills including branching scenario fundamentals, scenario optimization strategies, action mapping, performance consulting, storytelling, and script writing. You'll also gain access to a number of bonus resources, cheat sheets, and a project visualization guide to help you apply those skills to your own projects at work. I'll include links to all of these resources in the description below this video. Okay, I do have a bonus tip, and it's a big one. This is the secret to creating scenarios that truly engage your audience. In fact, this tip is so important and there was so much material in it that I had to put it in its own video. Click the screen right now to watch the bonus tip.